Meet Frances Chang, writer, producer, director, and graphic designer, who has also done extensive work in the realm of marketing and public relations.
Her experience in arts and entertainment has careened from puppetry and professional wrestling to film and theater.
Welcome to Scratch, Claw, Push, a podcast about artists clawing out a place for themselves in the world. I'm Billy Jo Cones.
And I'm Brendan Duke. Let's go. Welcome to the show, Frances Chang.
Yay. Thanks for having me on your show.
Thanks for coming. It was the weirdest, the whole confluence of events, just weird.
Yeah. And then the week after I met Brandon in person at an event. So I've met you both in person now.
Right.
It's a very small world.
Yes, the Atlanta film community is very small, as I'm learning. I think actually when the event where I met Frances in person, I met a lot of other people, and everybody was kind of like 1 to 2 degrees separated from, if you didn't know somebody, you knew someone that knew them. So
yeah, that's how it is.
Yeah. So right at the top of the show, we have a thing we like to call the 60-second intro that we use to kick off every episode. Billy's going to cue you, and you've got 60 seconds to tell us who you are and what you do, kind of like the elevator pitch of yourself. And after that, we deep dive.
Got it.
You ready?
Yes.
All right, and go.
Hi, my name is Frances Chang. By day, I am a marketer and public relations specialist. And by night, in secret, not so secret, I am a writer / producer / reluctant director, theater aficionado, and former competitive volleyball player and indie pro wrestler, puppeteer, and what else do I do? Sometimes improviser. So I think that's all the things. And that's me in a nutshell.
25 seconds left. That was good.
It might have been easier to just list what you don't do.
I know. That's awesome.
I don't know, man. She might be giving Mark Isaacs a run for his money.
We've had so many multi-hyphenate. I love the word multi-hyphenate anyway, because it just describes creative people so well usually, but we've had so many amazing multi-hyphenate people on this show. So I'm glad you got a lot there.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes you just gotta hustle, and then that's also where like all the worlds collide. So you do all the things, then you meet all the people, and then you just collect a bunch of friends and network that way.
Yeah, for a reluctant director, you certainly have a lot of short films. I've noticed on your website. I was like, man, she's been really busy. Yeah,
I would love to be a lazy person, but then that's where the guilt sets in. So then I do all the things and take on projects. But as far as directing films, like after writing and then like collecting all the people and producing it, I would love to be able to hand it off to someone who has the same vision as me, but I'm the person who has the vision. So that's how I wind up directing my own thing. And then also, indie filmmaking is like small budget, small crew. So the less people on set, the more schedules will align. And so that if I'm the multi-hyphenate 3-person or 3 role per person, then that's 2 less people on the set, or so that's how it goes. So I like one of the best or most fun productions where it was like my friend wrote this thing, I produced it, and then another friend directed it. So like we all had a part in it, and it just was more relaxing because it wasn't just one person that it depended on. So I like telling people what to do, but I don't like having things depend on me for it to happen. That's why I'm not my own business owner.
Yeah, interesting. I feel that sometimes, like it is fun to be in the leader position at times, but then there's other times when you're just like, can you guys just do things, like see what needs to be done and do it, right? So since I don't, we haven't really kind of met in person.
Yeah.
Like, how did you get started? Like, what was when you were a kid, like, what was your dream? What did you want to do?
Well, when you're a kid, you want to do all the things. So I am a kid of the 90s. I'm Gen X. And on television, all the things that people did, like in all the sitcoms, they were in advertising. So, like, they were an ad exec. And so I was like, oh, well, that sounds fun. Just writing stories, and they're real short, and hopefully make people buy things. And I didn't know the route, like education wise, to get into advertising, because that was before the internet and computers and all that good stuff. So I chose business, and then became self-taught in graphics, and then eventually merged into or moved on to marketing. But I still love storytelling. And what's funny though is, like, going through kind of like old stuff from my parents' attic. I found some old stories that I wrote in grade school that were published in the paper. So I was like, I've been writing stories for a very long time. So, at one point, I thought I would be like a news journalist, a writer, and an actor, and an advertising exec. So, kind of all those things are happening. Wished it true.
Yeah, I love how you said, like, when you're a kid, you want to do everything. And I was kind of the same. Like, I had a lot of different things I wanted to do. But you said when you were a kid, but it seems like when you're an adult, all of them are still pretty true, right?
Yeah, I feel like now, especially because of technology and our access to uh, getting things done and like into people, that you can be the multi hyphenate and do all the things. So you can be the writer, the director, and the producer. You can have a full time job and then a part time filmmaker. You can, be a high executive CEO and then still, a volunteer on the weekends for a nonprofit or whatever. So you can do all the things as an adult because you have access to it. And then just as long as you have the imagination and the drive, the motivation, I mean, what's really holding you back? I mean, besides money and whatever.
So you went to college for business.
Yeah, I went to
Yeah.
Furman University, a school probably not many people have heard of, in Greenville, South Carolina.
I know
Uh,
of it because you were one of our rivals in college football.
are you
Hmm.
are you the Citadel?
No, we're Georgia Southern. Weren't y'all in?
Oh yeah,
Once upon a time, we were all in the same division before we
yeah,
moved up.
yeah. Well, like, officially, the Citadel when I was there was our official direct rival. But Georgia,
Yeah,
yeah, we did play Georgia Southern in the conference a lot too. Yeah. So
So what happened after college? You did what with your degree?
uh, I moved to Atlanta because my sister was already here, and couch surfed while I interviewed for jobs. But see, I'd always been interested in art, but I just didn't have the technical skills to be like an illustrator or whatever. But then uh, computer graphics was a thing. So I became self taught in the Adobe suite. Was mentored by some great people at Coca-Cola while I had a brief contract job there. So then I was in graphics for a long time, and then during the recession, I had I transitioned out of that job, or was transitioned out of that job. So while I wanted to be lazy, I needed to find a job and be productive. So I saw that the Center for Performing Arts had an internship available, and I reached out to them. They didn't have any students who were vying for that position, so they let me come in, and so that's how I got into everything. Was puppetry was my gateway drug to the arts. So because from puppetry that led to the wrestling, which led to I worked for a circus, and then that led to improv, and then sketch writing and filmmaking. Yeah, so that's kind of the order of things.
You're gonna have to explain how puppetry is a gateway drug to wrestling.
So every year the Center for Puppetry Arts puts on XPT, Experimental Puppetry Theater, and that's where they call out to artists everywhere, whether you're a puppeteer, actor, singer, whatever, to submit an idea that's experimental to you as a puppet show. And I didn't know what I was doing and didn't get picked as a director, but you're able to submit as an individual. So I went to the meeting and heard all the project directors, and one of the pieces sounded super interesting. They used people to puppeteer other people and then there was like fight choreography and stuff like that. And so I wanted in on that puppet piece. And the project director for that puppet piece goes by Stephen Platinum and runs a wrestling show, and so his wrestlers were some of the puppeteers. And of course, working for 3 months with everybody, you become friends, and then like they're doing this thing, and I was like, well, I'm friends with you, I want to do this thing too. So that's how I got into wrestling. Was through
Wow.
puppets, the way you do.
Yeah, it's interesting hearing you talk about how this led to that, and like I think when you go to school, I went the opposite direction and went to school for theater and not business, and and you think like, oh, I'm going to be doing theater, and then your path just becomes so meandering and weird, and you're like, I'm interested in this now, I'm interested in this now, I'm going to do this, and so you kind of just ping pong around. It's like a pinball machine. You're just bing 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 until all of a sudden you're like, you look back and see how all the things connect over your career, and you're like, okay, logically I would not have taken this path, but I guess it makes sense when I look back at it. um is there anything that you didn't get to do along the way that you wish you had, or any path you didn't take?
Oh, I don't know. That's a tough one. Let's see. I don't think so, because I think there's still like so much more ahead of me, even though I turned 50 this year, but I feel like a young 49er. Ha. um, uh, who, I don't know where the next thing will lead. So I feel bad that my body's falling apart and I'm not able to do the sports that I used to enjoy. That's kind of a regret, like not taking better care of my joints and not having cartilage where it should be now. But I mean, I've often wondered if the film scene was in Atlanta 20 years ago, where I would be, like in the industry or in my circle, or what I would be doing. Like since I had participated in wrestling and a little bit in MMA, it's like, would I be a stunt person? Would I be a writer? Would I be a PA? Would I be moving up in the crew? I don't know, but the film industry wasn't here 20 years ago like it is now. So this is where I am.
I think all you had 20 years ago was the occasional Burt Reynolds, popping up making like Sharky's Machine or something like that.
Burt Reynolds.
Yeah. I have to ask, so like, what was your finishing move in pro wrestling? You like coming off the top rope with like the elbow, or doing like the leg drop like a la Hulk Hogan, or?
No, I didn't really have a finishing move because I wasn't on a card wrestler. So my handle is for my social media is my gimmick name, Dr. Melee. And I was the ringside doctor who would escort everybody out and to help sell their injuries. But I would often take hits as well. Or sometimes I would enter kayfabe guys, but in a mask, and nobody knew who I was. Or I could act goofy and then just have like a real short match or whatever. So in those cases, I always lost. So there was no finishing move there. But when I would grapple, sometimes like in sparring, I had more upper body strength then, and I would just grab somebody's head and just kind of hold them tight. So I called it the boob smother because they couldn't breathe. So, but I don't know.
There is actually a move in jiu-jitsu that like men do that, and they call it the leche de padre, the milk of the father.
Okay. So,
Wow.
so if I were to introduce one, that might be it. I don't know if that would be kind of allowed nowadays. I have given that sport up because my body's falling apart.
Yeah, you can't fake gravity.
Yeah, everybody's like, yeah, the sport's fake, but all my injuries are real.
I mean, you're essentially like a stunt person when you're doing that job. It's just athletic theater. I mean,
It is, yeah, and a soap
I mean,
opera.
yeah.
Yep.
So
I had a friend in college who was really, really into wrestling, and he was like, "I gotta watch my soaps." So yeah, exactly, exactly. It's
yeah.
male soap opera usually. Um, so at what point did you get into film then?
I would say the early tens, because I had always had like a wide variety of like friendship circles, and my friend Jeff Shipman had me be a PA on his set for like the 48-hour film festival, and I think that was my first experience working on a set, and kind of got the bug there, just being around it all. And so other people would have projects and I would help out. I'm free labor and I'm, pretty adaptable. So I think I'm fun to be around. So yeah, people would ask and I would volunteer. And then when I started taking a sketch writing class at Highwire Theater, one of our like kind of one of our graduation um, ceremonies was we picked a sketch that we liked and we would film it. And so while some people who had not been privy to the film industry before needed help with collecting crew and finding a location and all of that. Like my mentor, he was just like, all right, so you need a cast. I was like, all right, done. He's like, all right, you need a location. Okay, done. So you need a crew. All right, done. He's like, all right, well, I guess you're a producer now. And so we filmed it. And when I asked, or when it came time to film it, and I asked people to help, they're like, "Oh yeah, sure." So I got a DP that way. I got a sound person that way. So it was just people I had helped in the past, and just by being around it, they were more than happy to also jump on and help me for my first and subsequent films. So it's all about networking and making friends and making art.
So it sounds like you, because a common theme here is like people transitioning from doing stuff for other people to creating their own work. Do you feel like there was a point in time when you kind of did that where, for me personally, like, as an actor, you start off where you're like waiting to get cast, you're, waiting to get chosen all the time. And then if you I feel like it's good to come to the realization like, oh wait, I can do my own stuff. Like I can create on my own and pick other people, right? Because then people start to see you differently. So I'm just curious if there was ever a point when you kind of had that realization, or did you transition to making your own stuff and then kind of have any sort of realizations about that?
I don't know if there was any kind of aha realization moment. I just was doing things. Um, but I mean, imposter syndrome is very real. So I make sure to, I don't know, qualify that I'm a hobbyist where I know people are actually in the industry making a living or hustling to make a living. And so I feel like there's a difference there. So I don't know if there was a realization of like, I'm in it and I'm doing it. It's just, this is fun for me. And if I had to make a living doing this, it would be less fun for me. So I want to be around other people who still find it fun and want to do it and I pay people when I can, as much as I can, but it's all about the people who want to be in the room with me. And then I will be in the room with you to help make that happen. So I, I still struggle with was like the realization part is like, I'm just trying to do what I do and live my life and make every step forward that I can.
I
Yeah.
read a headline today that was it one of the ladies from Shark Tank that says that imposter syndrome is a symptom of success. Yeah. I don't know if that's always true, but I would like that and I'm going to run with it.
Yeah. I was like, you can't be an imposter if you're a nobody, I guess, if you don't want to
Right.
impersonate a nobody. So I don't
Yeah.
know.
It's
Hmm.
sounds like you were around like what I call like the guerrilla days of the Atlanta film scene when it was all just a like I mean since we're not too far apart in age. Like when I came to Atlanta like in the early 2000s,
Mm-hmm.
and there was a lot of people going around, and you could kind of see it building up, steam to the point right where Hollywood came in, kind of like in the late 2000s, early 2010s, and there was just a lot of people out there kind of just doing whatever they could to just try and get anything made. Granted, you also had like a lot of people out there who like talking about it more than they like doing it. But there was definitely a crowd that I noticed back then, and now those people are the ones that you see around town that are, end up with like an IMDb page. It's like longer than my arm, you know.
Yeah. So yeah, those are the people, I had befriended just like in circles and just hanging out with them and having conversations with them, and then them just letting me hang around. So when it comes to like, hey, you want to help me with this? Sure, why not? Like, I think I don't know what the name of their little group was, but they had dailies or whatever. And then, yeah, so that they would force themselves to go out and make something, and then they come back and share and give feedback. So I was friends with those people, and now I'm kind of like standing on their shoulders because they helped to lift me. And and if I can return the favor, hopefully I will.
So you kind of just kind of threw yourself into it, and I know that I think oftentimes people don't. I don't know. I've seen other people where they try to do the thing and don't focus on the community part of it, and it seems to me that when you are going out there and doing stuff for other people and forming the community, that's when stuff happens. Um, do you feel like, which way do you feel like yours went?
I think there's a balance, because I feel like since Atlanta is still so up and coming, it's a very supportive community.
Mm.
So if somebody needs help with something, people will jump on to help or find someone to help them. Everybody's got their projects aside from their day jobs, and we see these fundraisers all the time for these meaningful and huge projects, and we all donate to them because we want to see our friends succeed. So we have writers groups where we meet and read each other's works and then give feedback, like good feedback, not just affirmations where things are great. It's I see where you're going here. What about tweaking this, or have you thought about something like this? So it's good stuff and not just patting each other on the shoulder. And then that helps us with the creation. So it's the the creating and the community. So there's got to be a balance, because if you're just out there alone doing something, who's going to support you and who's going to see it?
Yeah, it's a good point.
Yeah, especially in the in filmmaking, it's very much a team sport, and I you really have to it almost demands that you have some sort of tribe or group around you that when you're ready to do the thing, that there's people who are going to answer that call.
Yeah. I mean, sure, there's people from like the early days who you said were out there doing it guerrilla style, who are killing it now. And I see them, reaching out to and pulling people up with them. I heard, on Naomi's, you're talking about Raymond Carr and Molly Coffey. It's like, I'm friends with them, and whenever they need help with something, you see like a ton of hands go up, like pick me. Um, and then if they're in a position to help you, they are on it. So it's a give and take, and I believe, I'm not like a religious or spiritual person exactly, but I believe in karma, and so I try and give back and be a good person if I can, if when I'm really thinking about it. So it's just uh, we want to see each other succeed, because the person who gets their foot in the door gets to open it for other people.
Well, I think that's part of what's cool about Atlanta, you know, in recent years, I guess, because we're not quite at the stage, even though we're known now as being a film hub. We're not at that stage like it's New York and LA, where it's just you feel like it's just, you know, pure Darwinism. You know, I feel like we're still in that stage where a lot of people just kind of want to help. Like you said, the fundraiser where we met is really like, I mean, I met so many people like, oh yeah, well, I don't know you, but I know somebody you worked with, and everybody kind of, you're 1 to 2 degrees separated from just about anybody and everybody in town, it feels like. And like, I mean, I interviewed Raymond Carr for like an old podcast I did back when he was promoting his short film Joyriders, which is really cool if you can go find that. And another Center for Puppetry Arts guy.
Yeah, I helped build one thing on the Joyrider set.
Oh, cool. What part?
It was part of the ship. It was like, that was the day I had available to work in the shop when he had a build day. And so I was like, I'm there. So
that's cool. Yeah, that ship looked great, man. I know he was talking about it at one point. I haven't spoken to him in a while. We're trying to get him on the show. But yeah, he was talking about doing it as a feature, and being a kid of the '80s, I was thinking, you know, it reminded me of what's that, like Flight of the Navigator?
Yes,
that old.
I love that movie.
It reminded me of like that, but kind of like a modernized version of it, and I was like really wanting to see more of that.
Yeah.
It definitely had that '80s kind of sci-fi vibe to it.
Yeah, it's great. Yeah, he made that short as a concept for hopefully a feature later on. So I hope he gets to do it. But he's busy because people are needing him for art direction, for puppeteer. He puppeteers with the Henson company, and I know he's applying for other directing positions. So he's another person who keeps really busy and wears a lot of hats.
Yeah, another Atlanta OG.
So for you, how do you balance all of this with your day job?
I should go to bed earlier than I do, but I don't.
What fun is that?
So, yeah, I mean, the day job funds all of this, so I'm keeping that for as long as necessary. And we have fortunately moved to a 4-day work week, which longer days, but I do have an extra day aside from the weekend to get things done or run errands so that I have more of my weekends free. And then I wish I were a lazy person, but I give myself either projects or deadlines. So I just, before this podcast, I met with a friend to give me feedback on the latest feature that I wrote. And I was like, I'm finishing this before the end of the year. So, and then I had sent myself on a little tiny cabin retreat where I, got to knock out 80 pages right after Thanksgiving. So I did it. I got it done by the end of the year. It's just the first draft, so there's still lots to work over. And then, so now I'm like in the feedback stage. So if I didn't do these things, like give myself a deadline or have projects, then I wouldn't do anything. So it's just kind of.
Well, sorry to interrupt.
That's
even
okay.
if you give yourself a deadline, I mean, a lot of people give themselves deadlines that they completely ignore. So, but it sounds like you're really good at self-motivating. So what is your secret?
Tiger parents. When I was growing up, I had to do homework in the summer that my mom made me do. And it's not like I had to write book reports, and it's not like my mom could read the book reports or, read the books that I chose to follow up on it. And then I was like, I couldn't go outside to play until I had done my math homework or practiced the piano or read the book. So that after procrastinating a long time and not being able to go out and play, that kind of eventually motivated me to do things earlier. So like even with other things, like during the weekends, I have to work out first, get that out of the way, and then the rest of my day is clear. So that's just kind of how I have motivated myself, is like, if I get this out of the way then the rest of my day or week or month or year is clear to do other things. And I don't know, that's just my weird thing.
You know that there's that quote that's like you don't rise to the level of whatever, you sink to the level, you know what I'm talking about?
It's
Your
like you don't necessarily rise to your aspirations; you fail to the level of your training or
training,
like
right.
your
So it
habits.
sounds like you just had really good training as a kid on how to do. You know, most people have to try to motivate, and motivation is really hard to come by, and you kind of were trained to default to just doing first.
And it also helps to have like a community and buddies or whatever, like accountability buddies. So like with the writing group. So if I know that we have a meeting coming up, you know, I gotta finish these 10 pages, or you know, I'll hit up the group and I was like, hey, who wants to meet up on a Thursday, and then we'll just sit together and write, you know, that type of thing. So those also help with motivation, because it's just you have another body in the room who's in there with you, and then
Mm-hmm.
then you get to share it. So that's the end reward, is like, okay, we're going to read each other's work now. Sometimes that's like, ew, no, or it's like, no, yeah, let's read it. Let's figure out if this is funny or scary or good, or you know, or tell me how to fix it, the type of thing. So I get excited for when we haven't had one in a while, but I get excited when we have writing groups, because I get to hear other people's works, and then I get to share mine, and then we figure out uh, the positives and what can be improved and stuff like that. So I'm a fan of affirmation.
With the writing, did you ever take a class in screenwriting, or did you kind of just pick it up like self-taught sort of?
It was the sketch writing. So I took sketch writing after improv classes. So the improv classes told me how to tell the story and move the story forward, and then sketch helped me um, make it more concise, you know, and make it, and how to drive the story forward, and how to develop a character, and all of that. So with sketch, it was, because that's all mine are usually like within 5, 6, 7 minutes. And I didn't even think I would ever write long form, because I was like, I just have ideas that are for short stories. And then, you know, I wrote a play, and then I wrote a feature, then I wrote another feature, and I was like, well, maybe I can. Still not with that realization that this is something that I can do full time, but it's just like, well, I guess I can write long things and people like them and they make sense. But it's not making me any money right now, so who knows? Maybe I can't. It's just not very well. I don't know.
Well, that first feature, did you have an idea that was long enough, or did you end up taking a shorter idea and expanding it?
So the first feature was because of Dave Bautista on a podcast saying that he wanted to be the star of a rom-com. So I wrote him a rom-com, and I've been tweeting and Instagramming him ever since. But
I think we need to start get a hashtag going. Like, you know, like one of our guests, she was trying to get a waxed statue of Paul Giamatti at Madame Tussauds. I feel like we need to start a similar campaign. And since it's not a wax statue, she will not come after us, as she has vowed to do if we were to ever do. But since we're Dave Bautista rom com
Mm-hmm.
whatever, I'm all here for it.
well,
Yeah.
yeah, I through a connection got an agent, and so we are working on it.
All right.
So, because I had a staged reading for it at Roll Call Theater over at Ponce City Market when they first had it, opened up their theater there, and granted it's a small theater, but I sold out a theater for a staged reading. And
Yay.
people came up afterwards like, I need to see this movie. So there's motivation behind it, and I don't know how we got on this. Oh, why I got into writing a feature. So yeah, so the idea just sort of was like, what I internalized his physique and his voice and his speaking cadence, and then I visualized who the other characters would be, and then what the story was, and then it just all kind of came out. Like the first draft was written in 3 days, and then revised and proofread and developed from there. And there's probably still work to do once anybody who is important actually takes a look at it. So yeah, if I have an idea and I run with it, then I'm just going to do it. And that's why I set myself deadlines, is like, okay, I want to finish this because I want to see how it comes out. So here's the idea, and then here's where I want to get to. So I always want to get to that point, and then I can feel like a sense of relief because I'm done. I've finished it. Even if there's a little bit more tweaks to it, it's done.
So, do you always have, I'm wondering if you're one of those people who kind of has like 8 projects going at once at all times, or are you more of a concentrated, get this project, take it to completion, oh crap, I need something to do next?
Yeah, I'm think I'm pretty much the latter. It's like I'll focus on one thing and get that done. And then there's the next project. And then they sort of sometimes overlap and sometimes fall back to back. But with work, since I'm in an agency, that requires a lot of, oh crap, I have a lot of things to do at the same time, and I have to figure out my priorities. So that they kind of go hand in hand. So like personal stuff, I can focus on and get done and just power through it. But I also have the capability of, okay, I got to do this for this, and then this for this, and then, okay, I'll send this out to be proofread. Well, I'll work on this, and then I'll finish this and then get that off. So I feel like my right and left brain are pretty well balanced, and they just sort of work entwine with each other.
Another thing, and I never thought about asking our other guests this, but I'm one of those people who I need to almost be bored in order for really great ideas to sort of pounce on me. So, like in college, I was taking the philosophy of physics, which is all about quantum physics, and like I would sit there and write this play. I was writing a play based on Alice in Wonderland while my professor was talking. He probably thought I was taking great notes, but sorry.
Man, she's really engaged.
I got a good grade in the class. I can't, when I'm really bored, I can't sit still. Like I have to do something. And so I would just sit there and write. And I'm wondering if you've ever had that, or if you get ideas from like when you're in situations like that, where you're like, I can't do anything right now. I'm sort of trapped. Do you ever have that or how do you get your ideas?
I think the ideas just come from life, because they're either inspired by a conversation that I'm having or what I'm seeing on TV or out experiencing things. Like the rom-com was from a podcast I was listening to. The latest feature was because of a stupid tweet that I had. And then while I was working out, I would have all these ideas. And so I'd have to pull out, while I'm on the elliptical, I'll pull out my phone and then type in the notes as like, okay, this scene. And then I'd get another idea. I was like, okay, pull it out. And so, and I thought during the pandemic, I wouldn't have any ideas because I wasn't doing things, but that's when I wrote the first feature. So I think the inspiration comes from, just doing, I don't know if I've ever been bored enough to just have, force myself to think of something or let something come to me. It's always outside inspiration that has hit.
Yeah, well, and I don't mean bored as in like, it's like the when you're in the shower or doing dishes, something that's monotonous and you're you have the blank room and all of a sudden something from earlier comes up, or like you're talking about the elliptical, it's kind of the same thing. Having that space for those things to come in, I guess.
Yeah, it's probably just a little bit of both. Because if you're actively engaged in doing something, I mean, your brain is turned off for that, and then it's open for whatever wants to come in, like in the shower, falling asleep on the elliptical. It's like you're focused on just getting through it, and then if an idea hits, then there it is. So write it down.
Yeah, for me, it's always like late at night, all the lights go off, it gets quiet.
And all the wheels.
I was out in my at my in-laws in around LA, and I remember because it's like they go to bed, going to bed like earlier, and then me and the wife turn in, and I remember I came out like with this movie, I swear it was like half fully formed in my head, where I literally just spring out of bed, I'm like furiously typing on my phone on like Evernote and like a page worth of notes just so I don't forget all this stuff. So, but I mean, it's it's that similar thing where your brain just kind of like, I don't know, it's like it's almost like, the fire has to die down just enough to get those really good hot embers to like light everything back
Yeah.
up.
Yeah. I feel that. 'Cause sometimes it's not the original idea that comes to fruition. It's something that sparks from that idea. And then you're like, oh, this is better, or I can do something more with this. And then that's what happens. But even just like the dumb ideas I'll write down, because oftentimes my sketches will just be either like the button or a stupid title. One time I was looking through my notes app and I saw that I had written down Broccula. And I was like, what was I thinking when I wrote this down? And I was like, well, now I got to do something with this. So then I wrote a sketch about a Dracula type character who was obsessed with broccoli. And I don't think it was
A vegan vampire.
I don't think it was good, but I mean, it made me giggle. So
It reminds me of Bunnicula. Did you read Bunnicula when you were a kid?
I think that was after I was a kid. So
It was, yeah, Bunnicula is about
a bunny.
I've heard of
vampire
it.
rabbit. It just drains vegetables of their color.
Oh, that's cute.
It was cute.
He blanches them. Well, even though that's not technically what blanching is, but so you actually, you according to your bio, you also did some work over at Dad's Garage, which is kind of like around Atlanta, a fairly well-known institution if you're in the kind of actor theaters circles.
Yeah, so I've been affiliated with Dad's Garage for a while. That's where I took the improv classes. So a bunch of the wrestlers were also improvisers at Dad's Garage, because there was a crossover where they did a show called Brawl, and that was a wrestling soap opera. So it was the comedy and the wrestling all at once. I didn't see that particular show, but I met all these people afterwards. So after I took classes, then I volunteered, and then I worked front of house. So now I work, sometimes I'm a technical improviser doing lights and stuff for shows, work backstage during Invasion Christmas Carol, and I'm also a board member. So that's my relationship with Dad's Garage.
Listening to you talk also reminds me of the saying, if you want something done, give it to a busy person. Because I have friends who, don't do a third of what you do, and they would be like, oh, I'm too busy.
Yeah. Or was it Bill Gates or Steve Jobs that says, if you want to hire a good worker, hire a lazy person, because they'll find an easy way to do things. Yeah. So maybe I'm both, because I aspire to be lazy, but I'm busy.
That's a good mix, but I'm sure that's probably not the not the easiest combo to find,
Yeah, it's not going to get a lot of job offers. It's like, well, my goal is to be lazy.
I mean, but if you're that busy, you have to find efficient ways to do things, right? Like you have to. It's I'm going to forget the name of the rule, but there's it's like.
Is it Occam's razor? The fastest?
No, not Occam's razor. It's a different one, but it's like, I'm going to forget the name, but it's something's rule that basically
like the shortest distance between 2 points, or one of those things. No.
The task will expand to fill the space you give it. So if you're like, I got to revise my resume and I'm going to give myself all week, you may still not get it done, but you will have spent all week trying to do it. Whereas if you say, I have an hour, and if I don't do this in this hour, I'm going to have to pay every single person in my accountability group $100 that I don't have, you will get your resume done in that hour, right? I like doing bets and stuff just because it actually gives you even more fire behind it. Yeah. But
I was about to say that rule is fire, meat, ass.
Yeah. So, but yeah, if you really only have an hour and you have to get it done, you'll get it done whether or not you've bet someone $100, So, yeah, I guess listening to you talk about the being busy, I feel like in order to squeeze things into the time you have to be efficient, right?
Yeah. And then, like most procrastinators, you get the most done within like the last 15 minutes to an hour. So I was like, oh, it's done. I could have done this 2 hours ago.
Well, something to be said about pressure, though, because I mean, you've worked. Everybody here's like done theater stuff where you kind of like sometimes during the rehearsal phase, you're like, this is never gonna fucking work, and then all of a sudden it's like go, and then like everything, it's like showtime, and somehow this thing miraculously comes together. Was the old was it Shakespeare in Love? Like was it Jeffrey Rush's character? The producer was like, oh, it'll all come together. It'll all come together.
Yeah, you just have to trust, because with the play that I just assistant directed, we started rehearsals January 2nd and opened January 26th. And when we got into it, because this is my first time assistant directing a full stage play at a major theater, I was like, how are we going to do this in 3 weeks? And the cast did it. They are amazing. They came in mostly on book from the get-go, and then worked through all the movement stuff and the blocking and the choreography and the lifts and the fights. And it was just, they did it, and it looks gorgeous. And I am so happy they are getting great reviews.
Yeah, it is amazing how you can actually make that happen sometimes as an actor. I think the worst for me, I once had to do like a week and a half. I had to learn a musical theater production because somebody dropped out. And yeah, actor's nightmare.
Yeah, musical.
For sure.
That's a lot more work.
Yes.
Yeah. So, do you have any projects that you kind of let go of? I'm curious because sometimes you have ideas that sit around for a while and you're like, someday I'll get to that. I'm just curious if you have any that you're like, ugh.
I don't know if I have a good answer for that, because something like one of the first things I wrote, it was the second thing that I wrote that I thought I was going to let go, I made a few years ago as an animation. Because it was a horror short, and I just like, well, I'm never going to have the budget to make this the way I want to. And then during the pandemic, as I was falling asleep, an idea hit me. I was like, I could have this animated. And because I am not an animator, but through puppetry have met many talented people. So I reached out to one of my friends and I was like, what do you think of this idea? And she was like, oh, cool. Yeah, let me think about this. And so what she did was she used paper puppets and used like string to tie the limbs and animate them or puppeteer them that way. And then with the stop motion, change the expressions of the faces. She layered backgrounds on an apparatus where, like, you know, here's the top layer and the middle layer, and then like the characters on various layers to give it depth. And yeah, it took a long time, but we got it done. And that was something that I just had thought I was going to let go, and wound up doing it almost 10 years later. So who knows?
Wow.
It's like, yeah, I have things that I just never have thought that would get produced. But in the future, I mean, there's hopefully many years left in me. I don't know. And especially like friends like Raymond and some other puppeteer friends are talking about doing sketches with puppets. And it's like, well, things that I never filmed, maybe we can do in puppets. So you just never know when, like, something that you have in the back burner is like, maybe this will work now. Maybe technology will change or funds will change and we can do this now. So yeah, they're always somewhere.
I feel like someday we could get some kind of like weird little, Muppet Fraggle Rock thing going with like little 5 points, with all the weirdness that goes on down there. There's some, one day I feel like some genius is going to come up with something to, every time I find out they're like, this is like some shit out of a cartoon right here. Some of the weird conversations and things I've seen in that area, like this is right for somebody to come and just do something so freaking off the wall that it'd be just utterly brilliant.
Oh,
I want to make a puppet of the guy who rollerblades past our apartments on the Beltline and sings. Yeah, that guy. Yeah. I want to make a puppet of him.
Funny.
He has joy, you know? That's why.
Oh no, I thought of something I did give up. So I lied. Back in the late 90s, I thought I could write a novel, and like a murder mystery novel. And I got through 9 chapters and didn't finish it, and then eventually my computer crashed, so I don't have that anymore.
Mm,
So I gave that up.
that hurts
Yeah,
because I feel like if you had it, you could eventually go
yeah,
back.
but I don't know if I had the heart to finish it. I just like I had the motivation to start, and I had all these ideas, and then, like I said, I didn't think I had it in me to write long form or a lot of content. So I was like, well, this is where I want to get to, but I don't know if I have enough filler for a whole book for that. And then now technology has changed a lot since the 90s, so I don't even know if that kind of book would be relevant or that kind of story. So, and it was just kind of a thing I was toying with. Everybody was based off of like my high school or college friends. So it was, yeah, it was an experiment.
Yeah. So, did you ever? I'm curious. Out of all the projects you've done, was there ever one like what was the most challenging project? The one where you really were like, I don't know if I can do this.
Hmm. Well, I guess challenging in a different way was the horror animation was because I since I didn't have the talent in creating it, I had to project manage from a distance because my friend moved to Pennsylvania, and then kind of stay on top of her that way because she was doing the storyboard and the animation and the editing, and she had a job, so it was just like, hey, where are we on this? Because it's not like we go on set and we shoot and then the film is done and you just got to edit it. It's like she was doing as much of it as she could at the time. So that was a challenge, and so that's why that took a long time. Uh, don't know if what else. Just sometimes s- splicing some ideas together into a story. Because like as many things that I have produced that you have seen on my website or my YouTube page, uh, as just as many, or if not probably a lot more, just don't make it. So it's just they just are still ideas on my notes app. So it's like, oh, this would be great as something, but I don't know what yet.
Mm. Yeah, there's so
I'm
many ways the stories can be used, right?
Yeah.
I'm curious to know along going along those lines, like from your corporate gig, or maybe not corporate, but your day job, like doing marketing and copywriting and digital graphics and all that. Like, is there stuff that you've taken from that you've been able to kind of like incorporate, or lessons that you've learned that you've been able to like apply to like your outside projects?
I think the most that I've taken or the most relevant thing from my day job would be kind of like the public relations and sort of promotion part, because part of being a successful filmmaker is having to promote your own work. So having to write the tagline or the log line, um, for like when you're submitting to festivals, like what is going to properly summarize what's happening here and also get the attention of the judges or the audience. And then if like with the play, I was trying to get press for it to get people to go. So doing a lot of media relations and reaching out and like having access to the contacts for media is helpful. Uh, but and then yeah, just making contacts that way. Um, other than that, and then just managing time since I am an account manager for multiple clients, having to manage time and manage people, that all comes hand in hand, and that's taken a lot of growth as well.
Do you find that like learning to deal with that structure or embracing it is something that frees you up a little more on the creative side?
Sure. I mean, it's a lot of it's a lot of emailing and following up and sort of nagging. Um, so, but I don't know. Sometimes, like even when you're working the day job, you get ideas and then you just sort of sneak away and write something down and come back to it later, or sneak an email out for just to answer something real quick, or to ask a question, make a push. So They both, yeah. I mean, like having a marketing job, a marketing public relations job is very kind of complementary, I feel like, to filmmaking or creative work because they both use the same parts of the brain and take the same kind of motivation and management skills.
Do you find that a lot of people you work with also sort of moonlight on the side in different creative ways?
Yeah, there's been quite a few of my coworkers who have had similar interests or side hustles or gigs. Like a lot of filmmakers and writers are big time nerds. So we will see each other at Dragon Con and that type of thing. So I have one coworker who loves cosplay and goes to Dragon Con all the time. I had a coworker who recently left us, but she was also like in the film track at Dragon Con and she performed in plays and she was a dungeon master and ran campaigns. Um, Another former coworker, she wrote a book and self-published and was interested in entertainment and film. And so and then like part of our jobs sometimes is film production. So people are interested in that aspect of like editing or filming the things for clients. So yeah, they all kind of go together, especially like with copywriting, because we have to be creative enough so that they're not writing the same thing over and over again for different clients who have different audiences. So we have to be able to learn
Hmm.
each other's or all the clients' voices.
Yeah, interesting. I was curious because I used to work at
Oh yeah.
BBDO when I was younger, and I was the weird one. I was a receptionist, but I was the weird one. Everyone else, I mean, obviously the account people are very like businessy and not super creative, and then even production or creative department, like they still, I mean, some of them, a couple of them made books on the side or did photography or some other things, but not we besides writing and photography. I mean, I feel like they looked at me like a zoo specimen sometimes. Like,
Yeah.
oh, you're the one that does plays. I see.
I feel like nowadays it's more appealing, kind of like with college applications, the more well-rounded you are, the more appealing you are. Because it was my cover letter that had the puppetry and the wrestling and the writing that they got the HR's attention. She's like, look at this. I think we have to talk to her. And then, yeah, and bringing me in and like it's not done up now, but I have blue hair, and then like coworker has purple hair. Like her hair changes all the time because her mom's a hairdresser and she's able to do that. But so
Mm,
creativity is encouraged at least at my agency and from other colleagues who work in other places. I see their LinkedIn or I see them at networking events, and yeah, they're all like, they're DJs out there, dancers. So uh, outside creativity helps with work creativity. And I think managers and CEOs are seeing that now and seeing the benefit as well as, having a variety of ages, generations within the company only helps
mhm.
to serve the content that you're creating and to help serve your clients.
Yeah, I agree. And it's a conversation that comes up on LinkedIn a lot about the lack of diversity of all kinds in advertising. It's primarily male still. It's primarily white. A lot of times, it's primarily young people. Right?
Yeah.
There's a lot of talk about ageism in it. Um, so yeah, I agree with you. I think you're not marketing to one type of person, so why would your
Yeah.
agency look like one type of person?
Yeah.
You would think if you want to speak to a bunch of different type of people, you would need a bunch of different type of people to be churning out the content.
Yeah.
But I mean, I guess no, not everybody thinks like that.
I think being the weirdo or the or nerd or like a super fan of something is becoming more mainstream. So it allows people to be themselves, which is great, and hopefully helps with people, with mental health, because like a lot of people hide themselves because they feel like the weirdo or whatever and wind up in a dark place. And hopefully with people being more open about it and having it being welcomed, we will have healthier people, healthier workers, more creativity, more content. So I mean, I think it all just benefits. or goes hand in
Well,
hand.
we've all seen it. We're all old enough here to remember a time when being a nerd wasn't cool. Like it would get you beat up in school. And now I'm looking at like these nerds today, they're out there getting girlfriends in high school. I'm like, what? It's like, you kids don't know how good you got it. We had to crawl, so you could, walk upright.
You watch any 80s movie and it's like marginalizing nerdy people, right? Like anyone who's different gets marginalized in those movies, and you're just like going, you grew up with it, so you're like, oh, I love that movie, and then you go back and watch it and you're kind of
It's like
appalled
cringe.
that how bad.
It's very
Yeah.
cringy. Yeah.
Like
I mean,
how anti-woman it is, how anti,
Yeah.
just any other type person, anyone who's not,
well, even a show like
preppy and-
Friends, which at the time was considered like the most innocuous show around, and you go back and look at it nowadays, like even just the character of Ross, who was like the protagonist for a lot of it, and like in his quest to get Rachel, he was doing a lot of stuff nowadays that like people be like, no, man, no, like he'd be getting called to the carpet, like Twitter would be having a field day with that guy.
Yeah. Imagine if there's social media.
And then of course the trolls would be like, like you'd have like people on both sides just going all in on that whole thing. Had it come along today. I mean, and again, this is not that long ago, but it's interesting to see like just where the culture has come, just in this, just within, our, like where none of us are like old, but we're not. But I mean, at the same time, it's interesting to see just that shift. And now like where cosplay used to be like this weird thing that people did outside, now it's like very, very mainstream, where you got like people out there with just Instagram accounts or Facebook pages where that's all they do. And they're hitting all these different kind of characters. And you see people who are just brilliant at it. And then you get like mashup characters.
Okay, but I have a theory about this, Brandon. The reason it's become okay is because it makes money. Like the reason that all of this, like people want to be cosplayers because they can do something fun and make money, and influencers and stuff like that.
But don't you think that the culture itself has to get to a point where it's in demand enough that people want to pay for it or take advantage of it?
Yeah.
On one hand, I get that there's that crass kind of capitalistic thing. But I also think the ground has to shift enough to where suddenly now the suits up there look at it, and, someone who would be hiring Frances would be like, oh, we need to take advantage of like the cosplay demographic. And then they're going to go off and hire her. Oh yeah. Can you like make me some cool stuff about like whatever comic book characters are hot or whatever? And then like, then they have to, take advantage of that. It's weird.
I agree with you. Like, it has to get a groundswell, but like the internet just made it easier. Like if I lived in a small town and I was the only weird person, or I was too afraid to show my weird, right? Like,
and I know that because I've been that weird person in a small town.
Right. So like you're too afraid to show your weird. So like you think you're alone, but the internet made it obvious that nobody was really alone all the time. They might've been one of only a few in their small town. Right. But like, now people can find each other and connect their weirds together and then form bigger groups. And so, I think the money-making part is just from like, oh, wait, there's these groups. And now they're bigger because they're just, they're bigger online. They might still be spread out, but you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. So Frances, what's your take? What's your read on all this? Like, because like, again, you're someone who's going to be that person that like, the corporate types, when they want to go reach out to these people, like they're going to come to someone like you and like, hey, like how do we reach these people, or like how do we reach the cosplayers, or all that stuff?
Sorry, what's the question?
No, I'm just saying, like, yeah, like we're talking about like the culture, like how geek culture has become popular enough where it's it's mainstream now. Whereas like back when we were all like little kids, like you'd catch hell for be like walking around with like some comic books or being into Star Wars. I had a friend of mine once told me a story about like how he was loaning one of like the local jocks like a tape of Empire Strikes Back, and the guy was even told him like, if someone gets caught, tell him you were dealing drugs.
Wow.
Yeah, I think it's great that things are that were once considered nerdy, it has become mainstream because one, it creates more content for our friends to work, and then people getting together because of their love of certain fandoms and interests, and then seeing the creativity at like cons like Dragon Con or Comic Con or uh, MomoCon,
MomoCon.
and then because not everybody has the craftiness or the money to put together like a really awesome, true to character costume, but to see how they work around that, like my what I do is like I do the mashup, so then I don't have to be like every detail is in plain, and then plus I like silly puns. So like my best costume to date has been bread pool. So, and then yeah, and then I don't have the clients who would appreciate that, but I would try and incorporate that into some kind of messaging because one, I think it would be funny, and two, like depending on the demographic, I think that it would reach people and they would think it's funny, and then they would follow the brand because like some of my favorite media handles are like, Arby's and Wendy's because they are just so wacky and just it has nothing to do with the burgers and sandwiches that they make. It's either like insulting people or the memes that they make, or just finding what's in the zeitgeist and then just running with it because it just shows how adaptable they are in the market. So that's credit to them for even whether or not it's pimping like a product, which nobody wants to have that sales blasted in your face all the time. But it's like, okay, I get what they're doing. I get their, the brand. They're adaptable, and it's not just a bunch of old white guys back there doing this because it's not. And so that's just more appealing, I feel like. So that's how that marketing and you got to follow the trends, and if the trend is going towards nerds and diversity, then you have to go or you're going to fall behind.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Jesus, look at two of the biggest. Well, I mean, you've got the whole MCU, so you've got the nerd thing, but then like the diversity, like what's one of the biggest franchises out there? Fast and Furious, right? I mean, say what you will about those movies, but I mean, my God, that's a rainbow of ethnicities in that film, and it's been around for a while. But it's like it's funny. It's like it took Hollywood a while to wait, there's like an audience for this. We don't have to have it just being like an army of pretty white people. We can kind of mix it up, and it can be wildly successful.
Yeah. All the
Okay, I want to go back to your bread. Sorry,
I
go
was
on.
just say all the pretty colors, not just
No,
the pretty white people. So it's all
right.
shapes and sizes.
Yeah, not just.
So go ahead. Sorry.
No,
No,
I
we
got
want to hear
stuck
more
on your
about
bread
bread
pool.
pool.
I want to see the bread pool costume.
Okay, I'll have to, I guess, send it to you. But yeah, so I have a Deadpool morph suit and the mask, and then I got like just a big giant piece of bread or sandwich costume, and put it over that, and then then I just became Breadpool. And so I happened to post before I went to the con. It was like, Breadpool about to hit the con, holler if you see me. And then I was walking through one of the bridges, and somebody behind me, while I'm in the mask, I hear, Frances? And I turn and see some friends because they saw me post it. Otherwise, there's no way to recognize me because I'm just this giant piece of bread with the red mask and red leggings.
I
Well, yeah, I
love
got
that.
no. So go. No, I have a
Oh,
buddy that does like there's. I remember I think at one of the Dragon Cons recently, there was just like an army of
Mm-hmm.
Deadpools, but it was like every variation you can imagine. And a buddy of mine did like the full, like he was like the full like pirate, like Captain Deadpool. So it was like the full pirate, with the tri-corner hat and the long kind of leathery jacket, and he went all, and he was just up in the mix, and it looks friggin' brilliant.
I would want like a group of rhyming ones like Dreadpool and Redpool and like, you know, I would want all the
Yeah, my
rhymes.
friend Adam Darby has these great locks of dreads, and so he's been Dreadpool
Hmm.
many years in a row.
Nice.
Well, I also like the Gwen Stacy, like like the Spider Gwen, or like I just found out about Gwenum. Like if you see like Gwen
Oh,
Stacy as Venom, and it looks freaking brilliant. I'm like, oh my god, where has this been all of my life?
no, but that's great. I have a friend who every Halloween does some sort of pun mashup, and one year he was Rambo Bright.
Oh
It
man,
was great.
I've got like one of my a friend of a guy that we worked with on the project that brought us together. It was a project called Garfield's Crossing, but one of our actors is a big time cosplayer, and he does one Purple Rain, but like a mashup of like Mortal Kombat and Prince. So he's got like a purple ninja with like the cymbal guitar.
That's
and
nice.
with like, and even like with the coiffed hair and everything. And then he also does another one that's Jam Master Jedi, shout out to Myron Marquis Abernathy. But he's got like, so it looks like Run DMC, but he's got like the purple lightsaber, like Mace Windu, and it looks friggin' great.
Actually, one of my friends, the convention up in Minneapolis, he and his girlfriend both went as, he was Purple Ray.
Oh, from Star Wars Ray? Yeah.
Yeah.
Last Halloween, you can take your pick between these two names. It was Edgar Allan Dead Poe or Deadgar Allan Poe. So it was the Edgar Allan Poe Deadpool mashup.
Nice.
That's a tough one, man. I kind of like Edgar Allan Poe.
You gotta get the pool in there somehow, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I feel like the pool that's the one that really, that's where you clinch it. But
yeah.
But also, so we are past the hour mark. So as much as we can, I could do this all night. But no. So like, where can the people find you online if they want to add?
So my website is Media Tiger, but Tiger is Tigre. So it's fancy like the theater. And that's also my YouTube channel is Media Tiger. That's where you can find all my shorts. My Instagram is at Dr. Melee. My gimmick from wrestling, it's DRMELEI. It's just pictures of hiking and theater stuff. And it's the same handle for Twitter, but I just complain about stupid life stuff on Twitter. So that'd be super boring.
Nice.
I love the idea that maybe our listeners can also just give you more ideas for costumes.
Yeah,
for
I'd love that.
Oh, I love some, like I said, I know more than a few people who do that. So I'm always about it. And there's some freaking, especially around Atlanta, there's a lot of people who are freaking brilliant at it. I used to know a lady that did Wonder Woman, and she was really, really in shape, so she could pull it off. Like she was a nice personal trainer. So, and she knew. I made the mistake of mentioning Wonder Woman to her, and she proceeded to give me like a hour long, like a 15-minute off the top of her head dissertation about like which writer. And I'm like, whoa, like you just like jumped right into the deep end of the pool.
So she told you about the creators of Wonder Woman who are into BDSM?
We didn't quite go there. We had just met, but I'm sure that was probably on the way. But like, she was like it wasn't just that like she just didn't like the like she knew the character. It wasn't just that she liked it, but like she was ripping off different writers and different periods. And I was like, you clearly know your shit.
There's a play about that.
Truth.
There's a movie about that
play. I saw it at the Playwright Center when they did it. Oh my god,
it was. Yeah, there's.
So yeah, that's why she has a lasso. Is just because the creators were into kink play. Yeah,
whatever.
It's fascinating.
Nice.
So if you were to summarize how this podcast went, what would your log line be in the subject? Because we kind of covered a whole bunch of stuff.
So the title's gonna be The Lasso of Truth.
I don't know. This is like when we get into how to come up with the title for these. Sometimes it comes to us real fast, and sometimes it's like I don't know where to go with this one. Sometimes you're like, I don't know. He does magic, and he's a stand-up, and he does martial arts. Brian Stoops, but like you're just like I don't know how to combine this stuff.
Spaghetti is what's stuck to the wall.
Yes.
The spaghetti cast. Though I'm sure someone's already got that, and it's all about Italian cooking.
Well, anyway, we're happy to have you, and I'm glad we got to talk. And we'll see you on the Beltline.
Thanks for having me. It was fun.
That will be all for this episode. To keep up with the show, follow us on social media at Scratch Claw Push. If social media isn't your thing, you can contact us at scratchclawpush@gmail.com. To learn more about the show, visit scratchclawpush.com. This podcast has been a Carcutta Media production. This recording, or any portion thereof, may not be reproduced or used in any manner whatsoever without the express written permission of the publisher, except for the use of brief quotations in a review. Copyright 2024 by Carcutta Media, LLC, all rights reserved.